Alright, so for glazing our chip and dip bowls, we're going to be using our dip glazes, which are located over here. If you ever forget how to use it properly, there are like the brief rules of thumb for using the dip glazes up there, but I'm going to go over all of that. So before you use the dip glazes ever, you want to wax the bottom, so anywhere that your pot touches the table is where you would want to apply wax. The reason we apply wax is because the wax works to resist the glaze from sticking to this part. And what happens if glaze is on the bottom and I fire it? What happens to your pot?
It'll stay stuck.
It sticks to that kiln shelf and then your pot's ruined, the shelf is ruined, okay? So it's really important that we always wax, okay? So when you use the wax, there's a couple of brushes here for you to use so that we don't ruin all the brushes. So pick the one that makes the most sense for what you're doing. And this wax is pretty drippy, and if you accidentally drip it anywhere else, there will be no glaze there. So make sure you kind of wipe your brush and then apply just a thin layer to where it touches the table. So if you accidentally drip it somewhere else, you're just kind of out of luck. You're going to have a blotch without glaze. All right? These need to be rinsed off immediately. That's the point of this obnoxious stick, is to remind you to wash it off immediately, because it does ruin, the wax will ruin the brush. So I'm going to rinse it off right away at the sink. And it's easy. And then we're going to pick one of our colors of the dip glaze. Now you have a set, so they should be a matching set. If you're somebody who did 3 or 4, I don't care what you do with the extras, as long as 2 match, okay? So when you're picking a color from here, do not look inside and pick a color, okay? You need to look at the handle and see what the glaze color actually turns out when it goes through the chemical reaction in the kiln, okay? So if you looked in here, you would think we had like 5 of the same colors, because we have a lot that kind of look this earthy brown color. All right, so make sure you're looking at the handle. So anytime you start with a dip glaze, it has to be stirred very vigorously, okay? If you were looking over here, you can see that there's a layer of water and then there's a layer of glaze. So we need to make sure that it's stirred so that it's consistent, so that your pot comes out nice. So to do that, I've made it kind of easy for you. You have this drill. You're going to stir it until you get like a tornado inside of that pot. So you get a little, not a tsunami, that's what it is, but see, like a tornado, or what's the word I'm looking for?
A whirlpool.
Whirlpool. What'd you say?
Hurricane.
Hurricane, yeah, that's what I was going for. Those are all much better than tornadoes. So I'm spinning, and you can tell, you can kind of feel that it's thicker at the bottom than the top, so you just want to keep doing this until it feels nice and consistent. Alright, got a good little whirlpool going on. Okay, same rule with the wax brush. Anytime you put anything in the glaze containers, you need to rinse them before somebody else uses them, because they are not paints, they are chemical formulas for these. If I put too much of this color into this color, I could totally change what this color turns out. So make sure you take this to the sink, and as long as you do it right away, it comes off super easy. Okay, and then you can set it down for the next person to use. So then, I'm going to grab, there's tongs here, I'm going to squeeze through. So at the beginning of the year, obviously all our glazes are pretty full, so we could just take our tongs, dip it all the way in, dip it out. So as the year goes on, our glazes are going to get lower and lower, and you might have to do half a dip, let it dry, another dip, okay? So obviously the more popular colors will be lower sooner, but ideally you can use these tongs, and that's a tall glaze, so I plunge it in, I plunge it out. I don't want to have it hang out in there. I don't want to wave it around in there. I definitely don't want to double dip. If we double dip our dip glazes, the glaze becomes too thick, and in the kiln it drips and runs off your pot. Okay, so make sure dip glazes always just need 1 dip. Okay, you see how fast that dried? Went from that shiny to this matte already. So I can take this now to the glaze table. Okay, this is an example of our end product if you were to use the royal blue. So you can see that we can see some of our patterns really well, and here you can't really see them very well anymore, right? So to achieve this look, you need a bowl of water. I should have got this ready. Bowl of water just from where you got the bowls for chicken dip. Do not share water unless you are using the same color as your neighbor, because again, you don't want to contaminate your pot. And then we're going to use these sponges that are on the glaze table, because these have already been kind of torn up from doing this technique. We don't want to use our new like round sponges that we use for smoothing because then they're going to get messed up. So make sure your sponge is clean. And you are just going to rub your pot until you can start to see your textures coming back. It doesn't have to be pretty at first. You're going to get a base layer off. So we're starting to see, remember I talked about that lace being really subtle, but then when we glazed it would come back to life. So I can actually see my lace again now. This is where, like, if you didn't glaze everywhere, just leave it somewhere for me, okay? If you didn't, not glaze, if you didn't put textures everywhere, you're gonna have it's not gonna look as nice. Or if you were someone who didn't push your textures in very deep, like this might not be as nice as the others who did put deeper textures in. Little touch-ups in some areas. And notice I didn't wipe my edge. I think it looks much nicer if you leave your edge fully glazed, and we're not wiping the back because we didn't put any textures there. Okay, so now this you can see the glaze, you can see your patterns really well again, right? Now there's one more step. So we removed glaze from this surface, and glaze is what makes it food safe. So we need to keep this food safe because it's meant for chips and dip, right? So we want to be able to eat out of our chip and dip bowl. So the next thing you're going to apply is clear glaze, which is pink, but it will be clear, okay? So that's pink so you know where you put it. And you're just going to take one of these nice fan brushes and slap a coat on. Okay, you don't need to try to spread it thin. Just give yourself a nice flowing coat on top of where you wiped, okay? It doesn't matter if you accidentally get on the edges, it's not going to hurt anything because it is clear glaze, it's just not necessary, okay? Just go ahead and give yourself a nice, easy application. And this will turn from this shiny pink to like a chalky pink. And that's how you know you can touch it again. Okay, so now that's clear glazed. You're going to do one last thing. You're going to check your bottom. Even though we waxed it, there's going to be a little glaze that clung to that wax. But since you waxed it, it's going to come off super easy, so I'm just going to take that damp sponge and wipe my foot off. Alright, and then I'm going to place it behind where you guys are standing on the glazeware glaze fire shelf, so any of those spots are okay. If you miss a step or you leave glaze on the foot, I'm going to put it on the rejected shelf until you notice and fix the problem. So if you're waiting days and days and days and your pots still aren't coming out, you should check the rejected shelf. Okay, so that's how you glaze the chip and dips. 2 should be a set. And when they do come out of the glaze fire kiln, they go on the other side of the sink. And then you should put them on my desk for me to grade, okay? And then you get to take them home that same day. So I grade them and take them home.